know for a fact within probably a half hour of meeting somebody if that person's going to be even down to do it or not.
Yeah.
And like that honestly tells me like everything I need to know of like, is this person interested and like, let's crack this shit open.
Yeah.
Like, let's start getting vulnerable. Okay, so in terms of asking questions, you've said that asking good questions is a superpower.
Yes.
How can we, as non-journalists, take good questions and make them applicable to our own lives?
That's such a good question. Okay, I'm going to start with I'm going to ask you a question before I give you an answer. What do you think the number one complaint is after any first meeting, first interview, first date, first job interview?
Complaint, like I'm being interviewed and it's I'm complaining?
Yeah, or you go on a date.
Oh, I didn't get enough questions about myself. Or they did all the talking. They didn't ask me any questions about myself.
It's exactly it.
Right.
So personally and professionally, the Harvard Business Review did a study. The number one complaint is I wish they had asked me more questions.
Interesting. Which for people, a lot of people go into these situations very nervous too. So it's interesting where they're like, you could go in nervous to a date or a job interview and then leave going, but I wanted to talk more or I wanted to explain more.
Yeah.
That's an interesting dichotomy.
I think people just want to feel seen.
Totally.
Oprah has this great anecdote that at the end of every interview, even Obama will turn to her, the cameras turn off, and they go to commercial break, and every single person says, was that okay?
Yeah.
Like, we just want to know that we're okay, seen, heard, validated.
Yep.
And questions to me, like, I actually think questions should be added as a love language because I think they really make you feel cared for. You're saying to me, I would rather be in conversation with you here, present, spending time with you, doing this more than I would rather be doing anything else. That's like, I know I'm like dork. I have chills,
me
but
too.
like that's, to
I literally
me,
have goosebumps.
Like, I think what's more loving than that? So I do. I mean, I'll give you a small sort of anecdote of how I discovered the power of questions because I actually didn't always feel this way or know about it. But I got what I thought was my dream job. An entertainment outlet hired me. I was the youngest person they ever hired. I walked in. I was like, yeah, this is why I moved to LA. I was like all ego. Like, this is what all the sacrifice was for. I did it. Hell yeah. I got there. I hated the job. I would break out into hives, cried in the bathroom at lunch. I heard one of my old bosses called it the oh shit job. I hadn't heard that before.
I haven't heard that either, but it makes sense.
Yeah, like I think a lot of people have the like oh shit job.
Yeah, right. Where you thought you wanted something, got into it, and you're like,
yeah, and you think it's gonna be one thing, and it turns out not to be.
Right.
So I ended up quitting, and I was living off my credit cards. Don't tell Tori that.
No. What? I'm sorry. I just blacked out for 5 seconds.
Yeah, it was. But to I think a lot of your points that I've listened to in your interviews, not feeling in control of your money is incredibly anxiety ridden.
Yeah.
So I was full of anxiety because of that, and I was like, I better make use of this time. So I took myself to grad school. I watched hundreds of hours of Robin Roberts, Larry King, Katie Couric. I wanted to try and be the best.
Yeah.
And I looked at this Google Doc that I had written. I'd interviewed athletes, celebrities, politicians, thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and I had a list of about 800 questions. And I thought, I ask questions for a living, and I've never asked myself one. And this was pre-therapy. So I started asking myself about 5 or 6 questions a day. And by the end...
Are you journaling? Or are you just thinking about it? Like, what is your process for that?
I love that you asked that. No one's ever asked me that.
Oh.
I would do it before I went to bed, and I would think about it.
Okay.
In hindsight, I think journaling is actually probably more efficient.
I'm a journal. Well, and it's also, for me, what I've realized about journaling is it's like the reflection in the moment versus the like... one, it's cool because you get to reflect on it later. You get to, in a year be like, oh, I was in that spot.
Yeah.
But it's also the act of literally like ignoring that future you is going to read this and instead writing something that present you needs to get out,
Yeah.
It's very therapeutic in that way.
It is. I agree with you. I started doing it more recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big journaler now because Yeah,
That's
it was
cool.
just very therapeutic. But anyway, you were asking 6 to 7 questions a night.
Yes. And by the end, I was more interesting at dinners, more practice at asking questions. I actually felt more confident in myself. But the main thing that changed was, like, to be perfectly honest, strangers were like magnetic to me. And my relationships that I had that really mattered to me, like my friends and my family, I could tell that they felt closer to me. And
because you had done work on yourself.
And I started asking them these questions because they were top of mind for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, this really is a superpower. Like, all sort of jokes and hyperbole aside, it's a magnet for people and anybody can tap into it. And so that's why I launched this card deck, Question Everything, because I believe that everyone can tap into the power of questions. It's like incredible.
Yeah. I'm sure you know about it. The 36 questions that lead to love.
Yes. Yeah. The New York Times ones.
Obsessed with those. Have done them. Literally have
on
started
every date.
have started seeing somebody.
Yay.
It's still very early. It's casual and nothing's happening yet. But
Okay.
it's like first date.
Because it's like, I'm done with the questions of like siblings, this, that. It's like,
well,
you
and
just
all of those
get
are
into
helpful.
it.
But like, I know for a fact,
Yeah.
within probably a half hour of meeting somebody, if that person's going to be even down to do it or not.
Yeah.
And like, that honestly tells me like everything I need to know of like, is this person interested? And like, let's crack this shit open.
Yeah.
Like, let's start getting vulnerable like
I
immediately.
agree.
And
That's
you
awesome.
jump, you like pass the first 6 dates and you're like on date 7, 8, 9, just because you're like, yeah. And I do these with friends. I've done these with a lot of people I love in my life, regardless of like my romantic connection to them, of just like, let's talk about some serious shit. If your house is on fire and you save your family members and your pets, what one item are you saving? You know?
Yeah. And they're even fun ones. You know, like one of the questions in my deck is, do plants thrive or die in your care?
Thrive. They thrive.
They do?
Thrive. Yes.
See, they
but
die
they did
in my
not.
care.
They did not for a while, because a good friend of mine told me that the number 1 rule of plant parenting is to leave them the fuck alone. And that's his quote, is you leave them the fuck alone. Because I would overlove them. Like many things in my life, as I would overlove them. And then it was like, no, leave them be. They'll tell you when they need water. Because most plants don't die from underwater. They die from overwater.
That's how I killed my succulents.
Succulents need nothing. Leave them.
Yeah, I
don't touch
that
them.
one. That's...
Nope. I've killed so many plants before I got them right. Yeah. When I had my apartment, 45 plants in my tiny little 1-bedroom apartment.
Oh my God, 45. I have like 4 fake ones now. So
no, they're good. I mean, regardless, it's like, it's fun. It's fun for me. And it was like a good transition into learning how to take care of something.
Yeah.